Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing Qliphorts. Now, Qliphorts are a deck that are pendulum-focused machine monsters. They like to tribute themselves and they get benefits from being tributed, from tribute summoning, and of course, the reason that we're playing this deck is because the new box has the ace monster of the deck, Qliphort Towers. This card was a huge threat in the TCG back in the day. It's a card that a lot of us older players still tremble in fear at the name of. It came too late to be a real powerhouse, which is kind of interesting. Duel Links does this. They like to take cards that were really good and hold them back until they wouldn't be so good and then give them to us. So we're never really going to get a Towers meta, sadly, because Towers came after Links, and therefore Towers has way too many outs. But that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy Towers now. It's just going to be a little bit difficult, but I'm going to help you. So, the skill is called Fortress Bound to Shadow. At the beginning of the duel, add Pendulum Zones to your field, and then each end phase, during the turn you tribute summoned a Qli monster face up. You can gain 800 life points for each of the monsters you used as a tribute for the tribute summon this turn. That is really, really good. So if you tribute summon Qliphort Towers a single time, you are getting 2400 life points, which is more than the Legend of Heroes skill. That's really good. I will go ahead and say, before we get started, this is not the best version of Qliphorts. So the 3 Qliphort players in Duel Links are going to yell at me if I don't mention that Qliphorts are better played in other ways. You see, the thing about Qlis is they have level 8 monsters with 2800 attack and 1000 defense, and they have level 6 monsters with 2400 attack and 1000 defense for some reason. This means that these cards actually benefit from Monarch support. Again, for some reason. So the actual best way to play Qliphorts is to play them as a Monarch deck, not play Towers, play the Pantheist skill, and just don't play any Monarchs and play Qliphorts instead. Weird, I know, but that's the best way to play the deck. I'm not going to talk about that though, because I want to Pendulum Summon, so let's play some Pendulum Summoning. Alright, so for the main deck we have Qliphort Towers. Level 10, Machine, 3000 attack, 2600 defense. Cannot be special summoned, requires 3 Qli tributes to normal summon or set. If this card is normal summoned or set, it is unaffected by spells or traps. Completely unaffected. Absolutely crazy. And by the activated effects from any monster whose original level or rank is lower than this card's current level. So Qliphort Towers is a level 10 monster. It is immune to the activated effects of rank and level 9 and lower monsters. That means that there are some ways to get around it. For example, the biggest and most obvious way currently is Yubel, the Ultimate Nightmare. You can also play any Link monster. This card is affected by Sky Striker Ace Kaina, for example. This card is affected by Nightmare Unicorn. And sadly, this card is also affected by Shiranui Sun Saga because it's level 10. So it's not your level or lower, it's lower than your level. So yeah, there are a lot of outs to this card right now. It's kind of the best time to drop it because it's really terrible in the meta, but it's a lot of fun to play anyway. All special summon monsters lose 500 attack and defense points, and then once per turn you can make your opponent send 1 monster from their hand or their side of the field to the graveyard, their choice. Okay, so the second effect is really, really good. It's really great to just make your opponents throw cards away. They have to be monsters, so you can make them discard hand traps, or they have to get rid of a monster on their field so that you can attack directly. They don't really have the ability to take that with 4,000 life points, so they'll probably be discarding their follow-up for next turn, which is good for you. Then we have Qliphort Carrier. If you scale it, it gives you 300 attack points to all your Qli monsters. And all the Qli monsters that are not Towers or the normal monsters have this effect, which is you can normal summon this card without tributing. It becomes level 4, 1800 attack points. If this card is normal summoned or set, it is unaffected by the activated effects from monsters whose levels are less than its current level. So if you tribute it, it's level 6, it has its full stats, and it's unaffected by level 5 and below. If you normal summon it without tributing it, or you pendulum summon it, then it's level 4, it has 1800 attack points. So that's how these cards work. Qliphort Carrier's effect is, if this card is tributed, you can target 1 monster on the field and return it to the hand. So the level 6s have an effect if they're tributed, the level 8s have an effect if they're tribute summoned. Speaking of which, Qliphort Stealth. It's the same thing. If it's a scale 1 and it's not one of the 2 normal monsters, then the effect is your Qli monsters gains 300 attack points, and the scale 9 is your opponent's monsters lose 300 attack points. So I'm not going to go over the pendulum effects. Also, all these cards, if you put them in your pendulum zone, you're locked into Qlis forever. Okay. When this card is tribute summoned by tributing a Qli monster, you can target 1 card on the field and return it to the hand. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. This card's really, really good. And it's important to note how Qlis work, like how the chains work. So we'll be talking about that in the replay, but kind of keep an eye on this card. It's really strong, actually. Disc, level 7, 2800 attack, 1000 defense. With this card's tribute summoned by tributing a Qli monster, you can special summon 2 Qli monsters from your deck, but destroy them during the end phase. So Qliphort Disc brings 2 cards with it. That could give you lethal, because they can still attack. It's not a Rescue Rabbit effect, they just get destroyed. You could link them off, or you could tribute them to summon a Qliphort Towers if you had the field spell to give you an extra normal summon. We're not currently running it. So this is a good card. Helix. If this card is tributed, you get to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. Pretty good. Cephalopod. If this card is tribute summoned, you can activate this effect if your opponent has more monsters in their graveyard than you do, which they will because you're playing pendulums. You gain life points equal to the difference times 300, and if you do, inflict half that damage to your opponent. So if you summon Cephalopod, your opponent has maybe 3 monsters in the graveyard, you gain 900 life points, your opponent takes 450 damage. Is that good? Not really, but, you know, it's nice to have as an option. You don't get to play this card too much if you only have it at 1, but, you know, mix things up a little bit. You could play another copy of Carrier if you didn't want to play this card. Scout, you should play 3 Scouts. I only have 2 Scouts, and the reason I only have 2 Scouts is because I hate the Gandora box with a passion. There's no good cards in the Gandora box. The only reason I went in the Gandora box was for Mech Lords. So, yeah, I don't have 3 Scouts. But regardless, Scout is a really good card. Pendulum effect. Once per turn, you can pay 800 life points, add a Qli card from your deck to your hand, except Scout. This is basically the only way that you can make Towers going second, because we don't have enough cards in the hand. So, Scout, amazing. Run it at 3 if you have it. Monolith. This is the other amazing card. Pendulum effect is, you cannot special summon monsters except Qli monsters. This effect cannot be negated. Once per turn during the end phase, if you tribute summon to this turn, you can draw a number of cards equal to the number of Qli monsters you tributed for tribute summons this turn. So, Monolith stacks with your skill to make tribute summoning really, really strong. Let's say that you summon Towers by tributing 3 Qlis. End of your turn, you draw 3 cards, and you gain 2400 life points. Is that good? Yes, it's insane. So definitely play this card. I'm playing it at 1 because I'm playing 3 copies of Summoner's Art. You could play this card at 2 or 3. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but I feel like that's kind of unnecessary. And I want to have tribute fodder effects instead of these monsters on the field. Summoner's Art, add 1 level 5 or higher normal monster from your deck to your hand. So this basically is just like Pendulum Call for us. You know, Pendulum Call was discard a card, get 2 scales. This one, you lose a card and you get a scale. And that scale could be Qliphort Scout, which will get you the other scale. So Summoner's Art essentially is going to be a Pendulum Call for 800 life points instead of 2 cards from your hand. Is that good? Yeah, it's pretty good. And then Qliph's End. Special summon this card as an effect monster. During the turn, this is summoned this way. Qli spells and traps you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, so it protects your pendulum scales. If summoned this way, this card can be treated as 3 tributes for the tribute summon of a Qliphort monster. Okay, so Qliph's End is a way that you can kind of go first. You play this card, you pray that your board that you develop survives. And then during your turn, you activate Qliph's End, you tribute it for a Qliphort Towers, and you go off. That hasn't worked out for me so far. It's a theory, it's a nice theory, but it really has not happened a single time yet. So, you know, you can play this card, it's kind of like a cute effect, and you could play like a deck that doesn't play Qlis, and only plays Qliph's End and Qliphort Towers, and then plays like Stall otherwise. But otherwise, I don't think this card is going to see a ton of play. For the extra deck, it doesn't matter. All of your scales, all of them lock you into Qlis. So these cards could all just be dead cards. They could all be out of the extra deck. I'm playing 5 ranked 4s that have different benefits just because if you don't have your scales, you are in a lot of trouble and you're trying to win the game. So Heavy Train Iron Wolf, maybe you get to hit your opponent for 2200, maybe you summon Dark Rebellion Exceeds Dragon. You basically like, this is only a situation where you normal summoned and your opponent destroyed your scales, but they didn't destroy your monster, and then you normal summoned again. So like, don't even consider these cards, they're not going to happen. The real card is Qliphort Genius. Two machines. This link summon card is unaffected by spells or traps and the activated effects of other link monsters. Once per turn, you can target one face-up card on either player's field, except this card. Both those cards have their effects negated until the end of this turn. That's pretty cool. So Qliphort Genius can negate, for example, your Qliphort Scouts after you've already used the effect, and then you don't lose anything and you negate one of your opponent's cards. But more importantly, you could negate a card that you normal summon. Like, say that you normal summon your Qliphort Stealth, and it has 1800 attack points. If you negate it with your Qliphort Genius, it goes back up to 2800 attack points, and it has its level back. So it wouldn't have the effect where it's unaffected by activated effects for the rest of the turn, but then when the turn ends, the attack points and the levels stay the same, but the immunity comes back. So Qliphort Genius is kind of designed to make your normal summons a lot better. It's just a really hard card to actually summon and not lose the game, because it requires you to give up 2 monsters from your field, and you've already Pendulum Summoned. This is the problem, right? Qliphort Genius is like a card that wants you to Pendulum Summon, but you really can't make it until after you've Pendulum Summoned. When 2 or more monsters are special summoned at the same time to your field while this card is in your extra monster zone, you can add 1 level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand. Again, it's a cute effect. If you can Pendulum Summon, you'll get to draw a card, but primarily you're going to make this by getting the 2 extra monsters off of disc and then linking them off because they would be destroyed otherwise. And that's fine. Alright, let's take a look at the replay. Okay, so we were going second against Speedroids. Skill activates, we add our Pendulum Scales. Alright, so for our opening hand, we have Helix, we have Disc, and we have Stealth, then we have Summoner's Art. Cool. That's a pretty good opening hand. It could potentially be a Tower's hand depending on what we draw. Our opponent's going to activate their skill, mill the red-eyed dice, and normal summon double yo-yo. Red-eyed dice comes back and targets double yo-yo to lower its level to 3. Special summon the Takatombor, tribute for the Fukubinoshi Piper, excavate 2. Both cards are Forbidden Lance. The target will add Forbidden Lance, and then they're going to synchro into High Speedroid Puzzle. Then the 4 and the 4 go into the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, a card I am very familiar with. Set 2 and pass. Puzzle effect, add the double yo-yo from the graveyard to the hand. Cool. Pretty decent turn for him. Now it's our turn. We draw, and it's a Qliphort Towers. That's crazy. Okay, we're going to activate Summoner's Art, and we're going to draw our Qliphort Scout. Activate Qliphort Scout, pay 800, and draw the Monolith. Set the Monolith. And there you go. Exactly like I described in the video, Summoner's Art is basically just a pendulum call for us. 2 scales right away. Alright, now we're going to Pendulum Summon 3 monsters at the same time. And we tribute all 3 to summon our Qliphort Towers. Now we activate Qliphort Helix's effect. When it's tributed, we get to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. The opponent is going to respond to that by activating Forbidden Lance, targeting the Crystal Wing to make it unaffected by spells. Then we activate a Qliphort Towers' effect, so we can make our opponent send 1 monster from their hand or their side of the field to the graveyard. Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is going to attempt to negate this effect, but he's going to learn what Towers means. So it doesn't resolve, and then he has to send his double yo-yo to the graveyard. Great. His puzzle is now worthless. Now, we cannot attack the Crystal Wing because the Crystal Wing's effect to absorb attack points of a monster that's level 5 or higher does not affect Towers, it affects Crystal Wing. So if we attacked into it, our monster would be destroyed, we take a bunch of damage, we're not going to do that. Instead, we end our turn, and Qliphort Monolith's effect activates. We draw 3 cards because we tributed 3 monsters, and we drew another Towers. Amazing. We also activate our skill, and we gain 2400 life points. Pass to our opponent. Our opponent's going to draw, they're going to activate Speed Recovery to bring back their puzzle, and then they attack with the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, destroy Towers, we take 2500. Puzzle's attack points return to normal, and they attack us directly. That's going to take us down to 1800. Alright. It's not good, but it's our turn. We draw. We're going to activate Qliphort Scout's effect again. We pay 800 life points down to 1000. And we Pendulum Summon. Now we can Pendulum Summon 4. Alright, so we summon Qliphort Helix, Qliphort Carrier, Qliphort Helix, and Qliphort Cephalopod. They all become level 4 with 1800 attack points. Now we're going to tribute 3 of them to summon a Qliphort Towers. Okay, so for my Duel Links only fans, let me explain something called chain blocking to you guys. So, when a card like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon would try to negate an effect, It is not like Magic the Gathering, where you can target any card on the stack and say, I want to negate this card. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, the monster effect that would negate a card can only negate the last effect on the chain. However, when you activate multiple effects at the same time, you, the person who activated those effects, gets to choose the order in which they resolve in the TCG and in Master Duel. Duel Links does not have that technology. It does not allow you to specifically choose which effect you want to resolve in which order. But for Qliphorts, it resolves in the order of which monster you tributed first. So I attributed Qliphort Carrier, whose effect targets a monster on the field and returns to the hand. Then I attributed Cephalopod, who doesn't have an effect. And lastly, I attributed Helix, which targets a spell or trap on the field and destroys it. So Carrier's effect is going to go on the stack first. Then Helix's effect is going to go on the stack second. So Carrier targets the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon to bounce it. Helix targets the spell or trap to destroy it. And now Crystal Wing activates its effect to negate. It negates Helix, so he protects his spell or trap, but Crystal Wing gets bounced. Perfect. Then we activate Towers' effect, force him to discard another card, so he's going to discard his Win the Wind Channeler, and we crash into High Speed Roid Puzzle. He takes 2200, we attack him directly with Helix, he's down to 500. End our turn, we gain another 2400 life points, and we draw 3 more cards. So, we have now drawn 6 cards, and we have gained 4,800 life points with the skill. That's pretty good. We pass to our opponent. Our opponent's going to activate their speed recovery again, banish it from the graveyard to return Double Yo-Yo to the hand. Normal summon Double Yo-Yo, special summon the Takatamward from the graveyard, tribute for the Car Turbo, synchro into Clearwing Synchro Dragon, activate the skill, revive the Red-Eye Dice, and synchro into Crystal Wing a second time. Then he activates Car Turbo's effect from the graveyard, banish it to give his monster 800 attack points. So Crystal Wing lost 500 attack points thanks to the effect of Qliphort Towers. He gives it 800 attack points. Now it is up to 3,300, and it absorbs all of Towers' attack points, which means it attacks us, we take 3,300, we are down to 100 life points, ladies and gentlemen. It's our turn after he sets 1. We draw. We activate Summoner's Art to draw another card, and now we're going to Pendulum Summon 3. We Pendulum Summon the Qliphort Carrier, along with the Qliphort Helix, the Qliphort Scout, and another Qliphort Helix. And we're going to tribute 2 monsters. We tribute our Qliphort Helix and our Qliphort Carrier to summon Qliphort Stealth. Now again, let's talk about chain blocking. So, Qliphort Stealth's effect activates when the monster is tribute summoned. So the tribute summoning happens... Everything happens at the same time. You could make the distinction, but for Duel Links, because the things happen in a specific order, the tributing is considered to have happened first, and the tribute summon is considered to have happened second. Therefore, Qliphort Stealth goes on the stack last. So, we're going to activate Helix's effect first to target a spell or trap and destroy it. Then we activate Carrier's effect to target Crystal Wing. Then we activate Carrier's effect, we target Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, and we return to the hand. Thirdly, we activate Qliphort Stealth's effect to target the face-down card and return it to the hand. And Qliphort Stealth, because it is the last card on the chain, it has an effect that says, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation. That means this card, and this card cannot respond to any of the cards on the stack. So, we destroy every card on the field or bounce it, attack directly, and that is lethal. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the power of Qliphorts. That is the power of a deck that lets you gain 2,400 life points a turn, draw 3 cards in a single turn, and bounce and destroy everything in your path without your opponent getting a chance to respond. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.